Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to talk about the next topic in the chapter, which is the concept of demand, which is a very important economic concept. So far in the past few videos, we've studied how consumers make optimal choices. So the bundle they choose, or the optimal bundle they choose, X1 star, X2 star, the stars again just represent those are the choices of X1 and X2 that make you the most happiness, given the parameters P1, P2, income, and your tastes and preferences. So given all of these parameters, we've talked about how we choose our most optimal bundle. And again, we are assuming everyone is a rational person, so we try to get as much happiness as we want given these parameters. So the next step is how do we change our behavior if some of these variables change? Right? So for example, if you, again, I'm going to go back to the same example from last video. If you go on a vacation and your parents are giving you some money and you buy things based on these parameters, if price of one of the goods you buy goes up or goes down, it will obviously change how you, what combination of X1 and X2 you're going to buy. Or if your parents give you more money to spend, then obviously you'll be able to afford to buy more number of goods. So that's what we are going to start talking about. But before I do that, in this video, I'm going to explain to you some simple math that you need to know to be able to understand the concept of demand. So we're going to talk about simple functions. And if you're somebody who's not very clear on some of this mathematical concept, make sure you pay extra attention to this topic. So we will talk about the demand curve in the next video. In this video, we'll talk about simple math that you need to know. So what is a function, right? So function is just, you say y is a, let me write it down and then I'll explain it. A function of x, all that means is that y is your dependent variable. So it's a variable that you're trying to measure, and then x is your independent variable. So y is dependent on x, right? So for example, if you're trying to figure out what is the temperature going to be tomorrow, that's going to be y. And then the factors that influence that, how much rainfall you get tonight, or if there's going to be sun tomorrow, or if you're close to the equator or not. All of those are variables that help explain what y is going to be. So this function is just a mathematical form that helps explain that. So for example, let me just make one up. If I say y equals 10 plus x, that is now a function that represents how y will change if x changes. All right? So for example, let's make a table, y, which is a function of x, and then x. So if x is 1, looking at that, you know y is going to be 11. If x is 5, you know y is going to be 15. And if x is 10, y is going to be 20. Right? So it's just you're putting some variables for x, 1, 5, or 10, and then you're consequently getting the outcome, which is y. So that's what it means in terms of y, y as a function of x. When we talk about the demand curve in the next video, we know that the amount of quantity we are going to buy is going to be dependent on all the factors we've talked about, but we are going to look at the price of the good. We're going to start by looking at the price of the good. So you'll see why we need to know this is the amount we buy is going to be some function of these other variables. So make sure you understand that, the mathematical part before we move on. So one last thing, and then we'll be able to start talking about applying all of this to the demand, the concept of demand, is what we mean by increasing or decreasing functions. As I'm doing this math review, you should be able to relate to some of the concepts that we have learned in the previous few videos. So the best way to look at it is, let me draw two graphs, and you have x and y, x and y. In our case, it'll be x1 and x2, but that's fine. An increasing function is that as x increases, so does y, and as x decreases, so does y. So x and y move in the same direction, right? So for example, if y equals 10 plus x, what that means is that if x is 1, if x goes from 1 to 5, y goes up. If x goes from 10 to 5, y goes down. So when you graph it, if x is 1, y is 11. So if this is 1, this is 11. That's 1 point. If x is 5, y is 15, and so on. Right? So y as a function of x is increasing because as x goes up, y goes up as well. If I pick another function, y equals 10 minus x, now you'll see that this relationship is negative. As x goes up, y goes down. And also, as x goes down, y goes up. So now if you pick, if x is 5, y is going to be 5 as well. And if x is 7, y is going to be 3. So you'll see that as x goes up, y goes down, or and conversely, if x goes down, y goes up. So the graphs you've seen so far, both the budget line and the indifference curves are negatively sloped because the relationship between whatever we had on the x-axis and whatever we had on the vertical axis was negative. All right, so make sure before in the next video we talk about what we mean by demand and everything in relation to that, which is a very, very important concept. You understand the simple math of what it means to be, to say that something is a function of something else, and also what we mean by increasing and decreasing functions. So make sure you review that, and then the next time we will start the concept of demand.